There's no way for me to discuss this record without also discussing kind of a very unique time in my life, as well as the band in general. And so the album that I've grabbed from my shelf is Savage Garden's The Singles. And again, this isn't an old record for me. I actually just got this a couple of weeks ago. But the reason why this album is so important to me is because the band, Savage Garden, is so important to me because they were around during a time in my life that was not all that great. And so their music, and specifically Darren's lyrics, helped myself and helped a lot of my friends through some pretty, I guess, rough times. And that's why this album found itself in my collection. I think a lot of people know Savage Garden is kind of a really poppy 90s pop Australian duo, and you'd be right in thinking that. Their singles, To the Moon and Back and I Want You, are all, kind of, well, I guess nowadays looked back in a very nostalgic way with people my age. But you have to think back to when these were brand new and on the radio. Being in high school when Savage Garden was kind of at their peak, liking this kind of music often brought a lot of ridicule. At that time in my life, I was very, very big into theater. I was very big into performing, and so I loved the performance aspect of what Savage Garden did, what Darren brought to his shows. And that's what was interesting about this band, was the showmanship. And when I would go on stage and perform in theater and stuff, really wanting to exude that kind of confidence, because in reality I was not a very confident person at that stage in my life, and maybe even arguably now. I wasn't confident in my abilities, and I used theater to hide in a lot of ways from things that were very difficult for me, like anxiety, depression, and kind of self-worth and self-image issues. When you really dove into the lyrics and really listened to the lyrics that Darren wrote, there was a lot of lyrics that dealt with acceptance. There was a lot of lyrics that dealt with individuality and being unique and things of that nature. And I just really, those lyrics really resonated with me. Around that time, something very, very tragic happened that some of you watching this may remember. And, there was this horrific incident at Columbine High School, which, I was a student there at that time, and a lot of people lost their lives, and friends of mine lost their lives, and it was a very traumatic experience, and it was a very traumatic time. And I just remember sitting at work, like I worked as a theater projectionist, and believe it or not, Savage Garden was on the PA's radio station. Like, we had this CD that we had to, drop in and play in the lobby on repeat 24/7. And, there were Savage Garden songs on there. And I remember being incredibly sad and alone and depressed, as you can imagine, because of, this awful thing that had happened. And, hearing songs like Crash and Burn and Affirmation and Two Beds and a Coffee Machine, feeling okay about things, or having this sense that things were going to be okay, and sitting and having conversations with dear friends of mine at that time, in this theater lobby with this kind of soundtrack playing in the background, them experiencing some of Darren's lyrics for the first time, especially Crash and Burn. I think that became kind of a lot of people's, at least in my circle of friends, it became kind of a de facto anthem, if you will, in that it was like a pledge, you know, that we were all allowed to be broken. We were all allowed to be dysfunctional. We were all allowed to be imperfect, but that we were all going to be okay as a result of that. You know, it got a lot of people, including myself, through. And that's why, you know, this album is in my collection, and that's why it's so important to me, despite being one of my newest records. I've always felt attached to this band, and I've always felt attached to the songs that they wrote. I mean, it wasn't, they weren't around for, you know, a really, really long time, but they were around probably during the most important time. And I guess it's important for me to also point out that if anyone watching this is going through a really hard time or a hardship of any kind, and that, you know, music is an escape, and that's important, but it's important to reach out to anyone, family members, friends, professionals, and get the help that you need, whether you're grappling with anxiety or depression or body image issues, anything like that, suicide. These are things that you should not suffer in silence with, and I know that I did for a really, really long time, and I would hate for anyone watching this to go through the same thing, because we're all connected in this, and we are all just doing the best that we can, and so let's do the best we can for one another. But anyway, I guess that's where I'll end it. I'm sorry if this one got a little bit deeper, or it's a little bit more dramatic or sad, but anyway, so yeah, let's end it there. Like I said, I don't ever have a plan for any of these. I just sort of grab something and hope that it works out. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.